Halloween 2 is a 1981 film directed by John Carpenter. No, wait, that's not right. Halloween is the direct sequel to Halloween. Is that right? Ah, here we go. Halloween 2, second of its name, directed by Rob Zombie, was released in 2009, 2 years after his remake of Halloween came out. Initially, Zombie was very hesitant to return to the franchise, having been exhausted by the production of the previous film. However, its producer, Malek Akkad, announced work on a sequel before negotiations had even begun. Originally French filmmakers Julien Murray and Alexandre Bastillo, best known for Inside and later the abysmal Leatherface, were set to direct. At first, the film was going to be a more traditional sequel, similar to its predecessor. When Zombie returned, however, he wanted to do something unique with the project. The intent was for him to abandon the rules they had previously put in place, the established lore and the ideas of the Halloween franchise, and embrace the things that made his films different.
Well, that was a catastrophic mistake.
The film is an absolute mess. It is a joyless, listless affair with a meandering plot, ugly cinematography, and unlikable characters. Shockingly enough, the version that is available most widely is the director's cut, and the theatrical cut is only available in a few select video releases. Generally, the director's cut is regarded as better, with more character development and improved ending, but if the improved version is this bad, I shudder to think what the original release was like. Despite itself, the film does have a few interesting ideas. The first is the focus on trauma. Laurie has gone through hell and still hasn't come out the other end. It affects her personal life and all of her relationships. Scout Taylor Compton does well in that role, even if some of her shouting rants are a bit too Rob Zombie, but they just had gratuitous use of the word fuck. It's a portrait of a broken woman, just trying to live one day at a time.
One day at a time. One fucking day at a time. You know what, if I hear that fucking phrase one more fucking time...
She also provides another connection to the Texas Chainsaw universe, in that she would provide mocap and voice for Julie Crawford in last year's game. It seems like Rob Zombie has always wanted to direct a Texas Chainsaw film, but never gotten the opportunity. The film picks up just after the last one left off, with a severely injured Laurie, Annie, and seemingly dead Michael. The EMTs who pick up Michael have suitably gross dialogue.
You bang the dead bodies.
And then they hit a cow in the middle of the road, allowing Michael to escape. There doesn't seem to be anything supernatural about this, just a random cow. However, Michael then murders the survivor and walks off towards his ghost mom played by Sherry Moon Zombie and a white horse. This image recurs dozens of times throughout the film. In fact, we're told at the beginning of the film that the white horse represents the drive of the physical body to release powerful and emotional forces. This is ascribed to a book called The Subconscious Psychosis of Dreams, but no such book exists. It's just something Zombie made up, which is kind of some absolute bullshit. The whole Ghost Mom plot is basically the same as Psycho or Friday the 13th sequels, and unfortunately highlights Sherry's inability to act. She just sort of stands around saying mumbled phrases on occasion. Honestly, anything driving into Michael's reasons for killing is a detriment, and having a cheerleader beside him is incredibly dumb. Later, this is joined by a little kid version of himself, who in the climax holds Laurie down so he can't escape. But it's all in her head, and Michael's, as they apparently have some kind of psychic connection. Basically, that whole plotline is just a mess. Back to the film, the most realistic gore scene when Laurie is taken to the hospital. This is quite gnarly, and basically the only time things are in clear view, under the sterile hospital lights. Soon after, there is a fairly tense chase scene throughout the hospital that at times seems unbelievable. There's no one living around, and at one point a pile of corpses are in the basement, which lead to an empty parking lot. There's some decent action here, but at the end of the almost 15-minute sequence, Laurie is slashed with an axe and it's revealed to be a dream. Yet more bullshit. Most of the film is set 2 years after the events of the first one, and follows Laurie still dealing with the events, including a couple therapy sessions. These are all fairly good character-wise, although Laurie does come across as a bit unlikable, shouting at everyone who tries to help her, with the exception of her queer-coded workmates, Maya and Harley. Of course, that's thrown off when Harley goes to bang a random werewolf, or attempts to, but before that, the two room together, seem to be flirty, and are dressed as characters from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There are sort of three parallel stories going on, though. Aside from Laurie, there's Loomis, who has written a second book about Michael, and is going around being a real asshole about it. There's about half an hour of him doing various talks, performances, and insulting his publicist, so I hope you enjoy watching a narcissist bumble about being an asshole. He only enters into the rest of the film in the last 10 minutes, tries to reason with Michael, then dies. While original Loomis wasn't much more effective, at least he tried to do things.
I shot him 6 times. This guy.
The third storyline is Michael, wandering around.
You know, like Kane in Kung Fu.
It's not a great look for the character. He also doesn't wear his mask a lot, but I guess he's in disguise, and then he puts it on occasionally to do a bit of murdering before returning to his aimless existence. When he's not busy living in a barn and eating a dog, he likes to wander into random locations and kill people, before disappearing into the night. Normally in a slasher, you can sort of track what victim is next or why. There's a trail of destruction based on opportunity, but here it just feels completely random. Some don't even appear to be in Haddonfield. Well, this film, it seems like there is a supernatural pull towards Laurie, who is his sister. It doesn't actually drive him, he just wanders around. He goes to a strip club that his mom previously danced at and murders a bunch of people. He gets caught by some rednecks in their field, and then he murders them, all the while looking like a homeless person. And that look continues through the end of the film, where his mask gets torn off and we see his eyes and beard, and it's not Michael. It's such a strange take on the character. Now, all of that can be gotten away with in a slasher if it at least looks decent, but here it just doesn't. In most scenes, it's so dark or obscured it's difficult to tell what's going on. Theoretically, the kills are brutal, but nothing can be seen, which makes them feel lifeless. Zombie talked about wanting the violence to be more realistic and grounded, but without being able to see the violence, we can't tell. That, coupled with frantic editing, makes the whole thing just a mess. Now it's time for a music video break. Alright, now that's done, we can get back to the film. For a while at least. Maybe throw in a dream sequence in there though. Finally, we get to the main event, where Michael murders some people close to Laurie. She finds them and then runs away, almost gets in a car, but Michael murders the driver, flips the car, then grabs her and brings her to a random shack. In the most lazy writing imaginable, we're then told that a witness saw them and are able to show the police where the pair went. They bring in more police cars than the town has, and choppers, and then Loomis sees it on TV and teleports there. We get to the final showdown with Loomis shouting at Laurie to stop a bunch, then getting thrown through a wall, before Michael Myers has his first and only line. Die! Now this wasn't in the theatrical release for whatever reason, but now we're stuck with it. Michael is then brought down in a hail of gunfire by no-name characters, then Laurie comes out, picks up his knife, and is then gunned down, before we go to yet another dream sequence with the White Horse. Halloween 2 is truly a Rob Zombie film, filled with profanity-laden dialogue, unlikable characters, terrible editing, extensive dream sequences, and a nonsense plot. While there are a few ideas that could have worked in a different film, nothing works here, and it's hard to call it anything but
terrible. Take a lap.
I hope you've enjoyed this review. Let me know your thoughts on the Halloween franchise or Rob Zombie's other films. Be well.